podcast is proudly sponsored by Café Postal. Café Postal is located in the historic Rail and Commerce Building in Little Italy neighborhood of Omaha, Nebraska. Established in 1926, Café Postal was originally used as a mail depot and was a hub for mail all over the country. Located conveniently across the street from Union Station, which is now the beautiful Durham Heritage Museum, it is a true glimpse into the much overlooked history of Omaha, Nebraska. After its closing in the 1970s, the building sat vacant until 2017, when it was converted into the beautiful cafe along with several other offices throughout the rest of the building. They offer a huge variety of breakfast, lunch, and pastry items prepared and delivered daily by their sister company, Attitude on Food. One visit to Café Postal and it is clear that every menu item is passionately staff curated and artistically prepared with love and expertise. Café Postal is also available for private events, featuring exclusive catering and event coordination by the Omaha local Attitude on Food. Perfect for your next big celebration. If you're in Omaha, Nebraska, head over to Café Postal for a modern experience in a historic venue and enjoy some Midwest hospitality. Oh, and be sure to tell them the boys from Triple R sent you. Now, back to the show. Well, you made it home.
Them are back.
The boys are back in town. You made it home. I was honestly, this is the most worried I've been that you would make it home.
Yeah, that like actually flying a legit airline, which like we flew American, which is like I think a pretty decent one. I don't know fancy. It's not Spirit, so like
yeah.
We know where the bar's at, and anything above that is like some people might be like, "Oh, United's the best," or
I think everybody says Delta's the best, but honestly, I think being on a plane is about the same.
As long as it's not Spirit. Like,
yeah.
I will have one gripe though. Of they say like, "Oh, free carry-on," but they don't have enough spots for carry-ons, and so we were able to get Abby's through because like it's a carry-on, more of a carry-on size, but it's more of like a backpack, like a soft backpack one, so she can like fit it under. But mine's like a very standard rolling suitcase that's like 20 years old. That definitely had to get checked both times.
That's so annoying. Yeah, also, this whole thing where they're like, this new thing that they are doing on airlines, which is there's not enough overhead space for everyone to have a carry-on. And it's like, since when? Why are you cutting down the amount of carry-on space? Yeah. There should be one spot per passenger. That's what it's always been. How are you now running out?
Is this a new thing that we're now just like, I don't remember, like, again, I didn't fly that much as a child. Or like just in general before adulthood.
Yeah.
Or I think it's probably because less people are checking bags now.
Yeah, but still, it's like you're allowed one carry-on and one personal item. That hasn't changed. So even if I don't check anything, what difference does it make? I still have the one that's allowed. I just don't understand. And I almost solely travel now with just a carry-on. Yeah. So if they make me check it, I'm going to be like, no, that's all I have. I'm not going to check that. That's crazy.
Yeah, and like apparently I'm not fancy enough to get like earlier boarding because they do it like, by like numbers, like rounds, and I'm always in the later round, and so it's just like 50-50 if I'm gonna get my bag on.
It's also hilarious too because I don't understand how they work that system. Your check-in is 24 hours before the flight, right? You check in at 2 seconds after you're allowed to check in, and you get boarding gate, or you get boarding group like 4 or 5. How is anybody getting boarding group 1 through 3?
I think
before that,
or like a member or like whatever of the airline. or if you have like points still I don't really get because I don't fly enough
Is there
to.
that many people who are members though? That seems
I
wild to
think
me.
so. Because you got to think like I know when I talk to like the salespeople, they like one guy I was talking to, him and his wife went to Mexico recently, and they're like, "Oh yeah, the
Hmm.
flight was free because like both our works let us collect the miles from when we travel," and so they just was like, "Oh, I guess that is nice. Like you
Yeah.
get that perk of traveling that much, where you get to travel more because you travel so much."
Yeah, that is kind of the dream, I guess.
Yeah. And so, but no, we did make it back. So, um, the day me and Abby were supposed to fly back to, we were flying into Omaha. Uh, Giant blizzard rolling through. Like late, not late, but like I guess late winter. Almost it's spring now. I think
It's
technically.
it's technically spring, so
Yeah.
a spring
Right.
blizzard.
Well, right before spring was supposed to be, they and so our flight got canceled. That was supposed to be a direct flight from LAX to Omaha. Got It was such a bad storm they canceled the day before, like more than 20, about probably 24 hours while we were at Disneyland.
Yeah, over 24 hours ahead of time, which I thought was pretty insane.
Yeah. And so like while we're at Disneyland, which we'll get into later in the
Hmm.
episode of the whole trip, had to like frantically book flights, which you know where the best place to do that is? Disneyland.
Disney. I'm at the happiest place on earth doing
Yes.
the most miserable task known to
Yes.
man, which is dealing with flight shit.
Yeah. So luckily though, was able to get a flight from LAX to Phoenix, then like a 6 hour layover,
Oh my god.
and then it was Phoenix to Omaha. So not that bad, but like the layover had to take that long because of like they were trying to wait out the storm essentially, which they did.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, we made it back fine. And then like by the time we've got into Omaha, like every road had been cleared.
Oh wow.
So the interstate from Omaha to Lincoln was like there was nothing on it. I don't know if they used like hair dryers. It was such an easy ride, but like all the shit around it.
I'm sure it made for a nice traffic too. I'm sure nobody was out. First
No,
of all,
no
it
one.
was so late, but
Yeah.
secondly,
So
the
yeah,
weather.
because I left Damien's place at like I think we left at like 8 a.m. ish.
Hmm.
Because you never know with LA traffic, which I will get into
Yeah.
later as well. To get to LAX, and LAX I think is the worst airport I've been to. My least favorite airport.
Wow.
I think
Worse than Denver, huh?
I love Denver Airport actually. I think it's
Wow.
because I got used to it. Because
Sure.
like you learn the tricks. Denver Airport like not that hard to get to.
Hmm.
LAX it's Denver's bad once you get there, and
Yep.
like honestly, it's just bad for like the TSA line's terrible. But LAX, it's just getting there is more than half the battle.
Yeah, that's the LAX itself is a pretty decent airport overall.
Not
Like
enough
as far
seating though.
as no, there's not enough seating, but there's plenty of places. I always judge airports by like, is there plenty of places to eat? Is there plenty of places to like
I
sit? So LAX, of course, loses that battle. Um,
I
but
also
it's
have a
also cool. Like it's a cool experience in
I
LAX
think
too.
my issue is I've only been to LAX twice now, and it's the same terminal, Terminal 5.
Mm-hmm.
Which I thought was just for Spirit, but no, it's just
No.
they have too many like restaurants, not like grab and go kind of places.
Mm-hmm.
Is my only thing I don't like about it.
Yeah.
Which the restaurants take up. Probably why there's no seating is because all the restaurants take up everything, and so that's my one gripe. And then also with LAX, I can't go to other terminals if I wanted to. I'm
Yeah. Too far
stuck.
away. Yeah.
Well,
Too
no,
far away.
like once you go through TSA, you're just stuck
Oh yeah.
because each terminal has like their own TSA, which I'll give to the Denver airport. Yeah, the TSA sucks, but it's for like the entire airport, so you can go to whatever
Mm-hmm.
terminal you want to. But yeah, so left at your place at like 8 a.m., but didn't get back to Lincoln until like 2 a.m., and then had to proceed to work the next day.
Yeah, that was when you texted me that morning. I was like, "What are you doing awake?" I couldn't believe that you. But then you were like, "Yeah, I mean, I work from home. Just
Yeah, it was
roll
just
out of bed."
wake up at like the last minute possible, and
Yeah,
then go log into my computer and like, and of course I had to like work because I had been gone for a few days, which meant my plate was like there was backlog and shit. So,
Yeah.
but
Yep. And I'm
it made
sure
it
at this point you still have not caught up.
gotten better. I caught up, and then it's the end of the quarter. So for business people, everyone gets that of being like, "Oh yeah, we're rushing to do everything for the end of the quarter." So
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, this episode is to serve as a debrief of LA
mm-hmm.
because
LA round
uh
2.
LA round 2, the Slumber Party edition round 2. The unfortunate part about it is, as I'm sure everybody is aware of, we really only released one or two little short
Yep.
clips because we didn't really have any content to release to everybody. So we kind of
Yeah.
wanted to get into that whole scenario because I'm sure a lot of people are waiting for certain events and things to transpire that
Yes.
are now unfortunately not going to happen. So I think first things first, we should maybe get into debriefing the fun stuff
Okay. I
because we did
thought
a
we
lot
would
of cool
just
stuff.
get that out of the way,
Oh, you want
but
to? Oh, you want to start negative?
not negative, but just kind of like get it out of the way. Just then we
Well,
can move on.
well. Long story short, there will not be any any live podcast
Yeah.
release.
Um.
Unfortunately, from our live event, it did not go super great.
Yeah. I will say that like as as any listener will probably know, sometimes we have technical difficulties with stuff that is ours and that we know exactly how it works.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is probably the biggest issue we had of the live event. It
Mm-hmm.
we had tested the equipment we were using, and we thought we tested it outside of the dive, and it seemed to work fine. And then we got into the dive, and I think we were maybe too close. Um,
The
and
location also isn't super conducive to that much noise in such a space.
yeah,
A lot of feedback, a lot of reverberation, a lot of echoes.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, because it not the dive is a great establishment. We are still so thankful they even like let us
mm-hmm.
idiots try to go there, but it's there the part where we were like under is like very tall ceilings, like probably 20-foot ceiling, I would say,
Oh yeah,
right?
yep.
And
It's just
so
like a big cave right above, like
yeah, so
right
the sound
on
just
top
goes
of you.
straight up. And so
Yeah.
like if you ever been to an actual like comedy club, it's very short ceiling, so the like sound can travel a little bit better and you can hear
Mm-hmm.
people easier.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I would say technical difficulties really caused some of our issues.
I would say that was the number one issue
Yeah.
was the technical difficulties. I mean, essentially what happened is we had three microphones.
Hmm.
We tested them ahead of time, they worked. We got there and we couldn't get three microphones to work.
Yeah.
So we had to essentially give up one microphone, which meant that one of us was stuck sharing a microphone. And so Christian and I decided that we would share the
Yeah.
microphone and that our guest would get their own.
Hmm.
Um, Anybody who listens to this podcast can only imagine Christian and I having to hand a microphone back and forth
Yeah.
is not conducive to this podcast. It
Hmm.
just doesn't work
Yeah.
with the banter and the back and forth that we have. So we were fighting over. There's a couple times where I'm sure you can see in the video where we wanted to fucking kill each other.
Yeah.
And then there are other parts in the video where you can see that we want to kill everybody who's in that restaurant. So it was,
And probably just a little bit of defeat in our eyes because,
yeah,
like, me and Damien were really excited to do this. And we were just disappointed. And I guess not in ourselves,
mm-hmm.
I guess in ourselves a little bit, like, but
Not,
just
but it was out of our control.
in the situation. Like,
Yeah.
and I don't, and no one take this as a knock to the dive. Again, we're so thankful for the
Yeah.
dive. And I think it was a learning experience for both us and them of because they had never done even a comedy night. I think they've had like DJs and bands, which are a little different.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, if you're in a band or a DJ, you have your own equipment versus comedians. Sometimes we'll have a PA system, sometimes not.
Yeah.
Um, or like even a mixer board would probably saved us a lot of headaches.
Yep.
And so I think it was a learning experience for both parties involved.
It was also a tough situation to plan.
Yeah.
The whole planning of it would have gone a lot easier and smoother had we had the logistics figured out ahead of time. But us being in separate
Yep.
states, me not knowing who our like I'd never met our guests before, so I wasn't sure how to really fully communicate. Again, everybody has a full-time job, so this is kind of like a fun thing. So dedicating the time that it takes to put that together, I think, was highly underestimated on how much effort and time it would take to set that up. And long story short, we did our best. We rolled with the punches. The people who showed up, our fans who showed up
Yes,
for the
thank
event,
you.
were very, very supportive.
Yes, they
Everybody
were.
said it was great. I think truly we are being way harder on ourselves than we need to be.
Yeah.
But I have looked at the footage. We recorded everything, and I'm just telling you right now, it's not even manageable.
Yeah, it's and I will say another aspect of like the Dive is a working restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very good restaurant, and so it's of course going to be busy on a Saturday night. And I think a lot of people who showed up, not a lot, but like a decent amount who showed up, didn't know there was a comedy podcast show going
Yeah.
on. And like one of my comedian friends from back in Iowa once told me, he's like, yeah, the hardest crowd to perform comedy to is one that is not expecting a comedy show.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
it can
so,
be very uncomfortable for them because they're like, I'm here to eat and talk with my friends. I'm not here to like listen to
yeah.
this idiot who has no idea what is going on.
And so I think that was also some issues of being just, again, the technical difficulties of our speakers not really working on our mics, and then coupled on top of like just restaurants are noisy just in
Yeah.
general. Like they kind of have an open kitchen a little bit
Mm-hmm.
at the Dive as well. And so I think that factored into it. And then, yeah, just people like, again, I'm not knocking people who weren't expecting a show talking during it because
Mm-hmm.
they were just trying to have some oysters.
Yeah, well, and that was the thing too. Is like, what are we supposed to do? Tell people who are spending money to
Yeah.
shut up? I mean, we can't. You can't do that. Now, if it was at an actual ticketed event, which is,
Yes.
I guess, now we'll get into the learning section.
Mm-hmm.
What we learned a couple of different things. Is one, obviously, it takes a lot more time and effort to set up a live podcast. You
Yeah.
really
I
have
think
to
I
be
made a joke
sure.
at one point of like, oh, yeah, because every live podcast you've ever heard about does it in a noisy bar and not a very manicured theater.
Correct. Yep. So we learned that. We learned that you have to be very you have to the event needs to be very curated to support
Mm-hmm.
that. So when, not if, but when we end up doing another live event,
Yeah.
it's going to have to be an actual venue that supports that type of
Yeah.
environment. So we
Yeah.
learned that as well.
Yeah. And I think like having a ticketed event does make it better. And not even like, I, even if it's only $1, to
Yeah.
be honest, like
It's not about the money. It's about
no,
getting the actual people in who are here to see it.
yeah, enough of a threshold where it's like you want to come in to watch it, but if you're like just wanting to go to that place, you're not paying the $5 cover. Like,
Yep, exactly.
um,
But the other thing too is like having a ticketed event means that it's not open to the public.
yeah,
When it's open to the public, you have to deal with all that comes with that. But for
mm-hmm.
a ticketed event, you can't just walk in. You have to have a ticket to get in. So
Yeah,
there is no miscommunication about what exactly is going to be happening. Whether it's
mm-hmm.
$1, whether it's $50, you have to have a ticket to get in, right? So that's the other thing that we're going to have to do next time is do some sort of ticketing to where it's like this location is not for public use.
Mm-hmm.
It's only for people who have tickets to the event.
Or you can still do tickets at the door, but with the understanding of like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, there are rules
Yeah.
here, kind of thing. And I
Yep.
think another aspect is like it might have been better if we had gone like before they were open, because I don't know what time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they do lunch Or
Yeah, they do brunch on the weekend, so they're
oh
open
dang, so we
early.
would have gone really early. But like a time when there weren't customers there to test out the sound system, and then we would have known. We've been more prepared.
Yep. But again, difficult when we live in different states.
Difficult, yep. And
And
then
I didn't have any of the equipment. I wasn't sure if we were buying, renting,
yeah,
or using what we had. It all, honestly, peek behind the curtain. I know we're trying to be, polite and stuff like that, but realistically, nothing was set in stone until 4 p.m. The day of the show.
yeah,
So that's the way it goes. But there's a first time for everything, and the thing that we also learned is if it goes perfectly the first time, you're not going to be prepared for what could go wrong
yeah,
the next time. And now we know what to look for and what to test for next time. So
yeah.
that's why you're not going to be seeing the live event. Unfortunately, there's nothing that we can use except for maybe if we can manage to sift through some of the stand-up bits, because all credit to Christian, was kind of the hero of the night. Went up and absolutely murdered for 17 straight minutes.
Could have gone longer, baby.
Yeah, I actually gave him the light when he still had like 6 or 7 bits left, because I was like, dude, you're not the headliner. You got to get off the stage, brother.
Yeah, no. It felt good to do comedy again. It had been a very long time since I've performed some of my comedy, and so it was really nice. And
did it reignite your want to do it again? Do you want to get back up and do it again?
Yeah, I don't know if I want to still like go to open mics as much.
I want to sell tickets, bitch.
Yeah, no. Honestly, because like open mics are just so. The one I had in Des Moines, I think why I did it so much because Des Moines actually has a very good comedy scene, which I know seems ridiculous for me to say, but they have like an open mic night almost every weekday. I would say Sunday through Thursday there was a open mic you could go to.
Yeah.
And the one I mostly went to was because it was at like 7 versus the other one started at like 10.
Yep.
And so we were done by like 9:30. So I was like, could go to bed at a reasonable time. But some of the other mics, I wouldn't go up until like sometimes like 12:30.
That's the hard part, man, is, people are always like, why don't you guys do comedy? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, I have a 8 to 5 job. I literally cannot be out until 12 getting booed off stage. I can't manage that.
So I definitely did miss it. I thought I did fairly well. People said I did.
I wouldn't lie to you. I would tell you if you sucked.
That's true. And so, but yeah, it got definitely the volume level of the crowd was a lot less, like, so that was nice.
Well, I think I think what happened was we started with the podcast, and honestly, I'll give myself a little credit here for a second. We initially had it planned that you would start out with stand-up and then do the pod and then finish with stand-up. And I was like, you know what? If anything's going to suffer, we should start with a podcast.
Yeah.
That way, because if we start with that, even if people aren't here for that, they're going to have to be like, do we stay and deal with all this stuff? So credit where credit's due. We did change the lineup and started with a podcast.
Yeah, that was a good call.
And we were supposed to do an hour, but because of the technical difficulties, we actually started like 30 minutes late.
Yeah. And I still feel like we went on 15 minutes longer than it should have gone for the podcast.
Yeah, and so we started about 30 minutes late, and so instead of doing an hour, we only did about 25 minutes.
Yeah.
But the thing that I realized is after we ended and we gave that 15-minute break, everyone who wasn't there for comedy cleared out.
Yeah.
So it really reset the tone, and you were able to go up and like, whoa, that was, you kind of play it off of it, which is nice. So hindsight being what it is, it's actually okay that we don't have anything to produce from that because it made the stand-up portion much better.
Yeah, no. And I'm so thankful for everyone who showed up, mostly Damien's friends, very active listeners of the podcast.
Yes, and shout out.
It's always
and the support was people. The support was great. I mean, nobody had to, people didn't have to come out to that.
No.
And then to stick around after the shit show was really good, and had an after party.
That was
people came over.
I can't do that anymore. That, that was a rough next day. Not because like I feel like I like didn't drink. It was just we were how late were we up till like 4?
Yeah, 3:30 probably.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, and then like I was like my internal clock was still so messed up because of daylight savings time, and then also going adjusting to Pacific time was just
Mm-hmm.
like I think I still like woke up at my normal time.
Yeah. Well, let it be known that I now owe 2 visits to Nebraska
Yeah.
to make up for the 2 visits to L.A.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, enough negative Nancy talk. Enough
No, yeah, I
enough
think we
poo
just
poo. We did
yeah
the best we could. We apologize that the people who didn't come out to the show, but who are waiting for the live stuff to come out. I apologize,
yeah
but it's not going to happen. So suck it and move on. Let's
yeah
just move on.
move on. Yes.
Anyways, let's get into the fun shit, man.
Yeah.
First of all, the
No.
first thing I want to talk about, because I don't like to go in order, so let's ramp
Okay.
it up here. The
Okay.
thing that I'm the most excited to talk about, and anybody who listens here will enjoy how much we love comedy. Christian found probably one of the greatest, not only comedy venues that I've ever been to,
It's
but
it's
one of
a
the
it's a
greatest shows.
yeah. It's so it's at the I don't know if I want to call it the historic
Yeah.
Largo, but
Mm-hmm.
or like very well. It's a place for comedy in LA. It's like really well known. It's not that good of a actual like the theater is like I would say like
Dingy.
middle school auditorium. I think is the
Yeah.
best. I think that's what I called it.
We sat. We sat in the seats. So keep in mind, the seats there are smaller than like a computer chair,
Yeah,
right? And they're the little. They're like the little theater ones that fold down and it's got a cushion.
yeah,
But it's so old that the cushions just plop you straight onto the
yep,
metal, and you're sitting. You're like sitting like shoulders up against your chin
yeah.
to fit in, but which is perfect for
Oh no,
comedy.
it's a perfect comedy club, and
Yeah.
so I knew it was coming out, and of course I wanted to see comedy in L.A. I will admit, yeah, one that besides New York, probably number two. Chicago's up there too. We've
Mm-hmm.
talked about this a lot, and so I was like, I want to go, just go see a show. And the fun thing is, because like if you're in the Midwest, you are lucky if a big name comedian comes through, and even if that, it's probably going to be at a big arena, which
Which
again,
doesn't translate well. I know we've talked about that, but
yep. And, or like
yeah.
even like a big theater, sometimes it doesn't translate
Mm-hmm.
well. And so like you want to see comedy at places like this.
Yeah.
And so, but the fun thing is in LA, any of the night of the week could be a comedian you want to see.
Mm-hmm.
Like literally, it was the like 3 or 4 days there. We only really had time to go see one show. It was like, which one do I pick? Like, which comedian do I want to go see? And
Literally spoiled for choice.
yeah,
And it
literally,
was over St. Patrick's Day,
mm-hmm,
which is, I mean, anybody who knows comedy knows St. Patrick's Day is a huge
yeah,
comedy day. Um, so yeah, but Largo's downtown,
mm-hmm. I think it's
and
in WeHo or
yeah,
as I
West Hollywood.
WeHo, West Hollywood.
Yeah,
But it was Patton Oswalt and friends, and so what it is essentially, Patton has a monthly show where he just invites 4 comedian friends just to come workshop jokes, and
yep.
so
Every month at the Largo,
yeah, and
different
you don't know
comedians
who
show
it is.
up.
You just know Patton's going to be there, which
Mm-hmm.
and tickets are very inexpensive for like
$35.
yeah,
I was like, okay, yeah, let's do that.
yeah,
And
and
parking on site,
yes,
which is
valet
huge.
parking, which is
Valet
the first
parking,
at a very reasonable. Well, it was like
yeah,
$20.
$20 for valet, and you literally pull up to the
Yeah,
facade of Largo. You go, hey, I'm here for the comedy night. They go, okay, $20. They take your car, and you walk. I mean, 2 feet, and you're in
yeah,
the building. That's, I mean, primo.
yeah. Also, very cool vibes of before. So like you walk in and it's like a giant like courtyard,
Mm-hmm.
and they have like free water, which is
Yeah.
I haven't seen before. Like it's just it's like what you would like. You walk in, you're like, oh yeah, this is LA.
No wonder we have a shortage. They're handing out free water.
Yeah. But yeah, so show starts, and I feel really bad. I can't remember the first 2 comedians' names.
Saul.
Was the
Saul was the second guy, I don't remember the woman.
Yeah, I feel
But
terrible.
she was
Victoria.
Victoria.
Yep.
She was fucking funny. She wrote for the roast of Tom Brady.
Yep.
Very like, because we can be honest, she came out and I was like, oh god, this is not going to be good. Just
Her.
because her
You
appearance
read a
was
book
like,
by its cover.
yeah, I definitely made judgments based on her appearance.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh god, this is going to be some real fucking like woke. I
Yeah.
hate that term, but real like
Yeah.
progressive alt type shit.
Yeah.
And she murdered like out of
Yeah.
the blue some of the darkest shit I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah. No. She was fantastic. And then, what was the next?
Saul, I think
Saul.
was his name. Yeah,
Yep.
he
Saul.
was very funny too.
He was hilarious too. And so, again, it's Patton bringing on his friend, and so, and again, you have no idea. And so, after those two local comics came up, the next we're like, okay, who's it gonna be? And then it's fucking Zach Galifianakis, and you're
We
like,
were
what?
losing it. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and he, like, I don't even know. He only did like less than 10 minutes. And
I think I counted it was about 7.
yeah, and laughter the entire 7 minutes. Just,
How does somebody get up on stage? And so I think I've shouted it out on this podcast before, but I'll do it again. Go and watch Zach Galifianakis live at the Purple Onion. I think it's still on Netflix.
yeah,
But how does somebody get up on stage to do a set of comedy and have 0 punchlines?
yeah.
He did not. Everything that he did was just one sentence of a premise and destroyed the fucking room.
My favorite part of his set is, I can't remember the bit, but he was like, "This next one's so terrible, I have to tell it from outside." Goes to the side door that leads outside, lets it shut, then tells the joke because the microphone cord is 50 feet long.
Yeah, it was a Shania Twain joke. Like, she's not Shania Twain in 2025 is a hilarious thing.
Yeah, yeah, and so he killed it, and then Patton comes back on and does a really good set. And I think I remember I even made this joke to Abby beforehand. It's like, oh, this is like an open mic for them. And he kind of even said that. He was like, yeah, I'm still working through this. You're going to talk in like 5 months when this is on Netflix. And you're like, I was there when this was just a terrible premise.
Well, and it's so cool too, because he kept saying that. He's like, that's going to be funnier. That's going to be funnier. It was funny. That's the thing, that it's like, you see these guys, these people in action, and you're like, oh, they have a premise, but they're writing on stage.
Yeah.
It's really, really cool to see. So for him to kill it and then also acknowledge, like, I don't know, we'll come back to that later, is just pretty surreal.
It's really fun as a comedian, because that's like what you see at open mics of people like, oh, they're punching up the joke, and you're like, oh, I can see where this is going, and then like you can tell like, oh, this is gonna be a really good joke at some point. It's maybe not quite there yet. You have like, and then you see like the pieces come together. And so that was really cool. Patton killed it. And then I was like, well, okay, like from like other stuff I've seen, he had 4 comics that he brings with him, but oh, it's Patton's show, so he just must be the headliner. So like, I was like, I was a little disappointed in that aspect when Patton was on. Of course, I'm still so excited to see, but I was like, oh, I was kind of curious to see. And then Patton does his like, well, that's the end of the show. We've only been here for like an hour. And then Patton goes, you've been such a great crowd. I want to bring my last friend out.
Yes.
And it's fucking John Mulaney.
Oh my God, dude.
And
I could not believe it.
Looked at each other.
I leaned forward and I was like, are you kidding me right now? This is insane.
And then John proceeds to do in half an hour of John Mulaney. Just
brand new. And the thing is, I think we talked about it multiple times. How are you so precise yet still working it out?
Yeah.
Because it's all brand new stuff. He had his little legal pad up there, and he would look at it and be like, oh yeah, here's one, and then would just go on a 15-minute tangent.
Yeah.
It's truly remarkable. You see why he is who he is.
Whenever that special comes out, oh my.
I would refer to him as an assassin in that set. He was going after everyone.
And he was just working it out. Like,
yeah.
Like I'll have my little stupid notepad, like that just says like weird stuff on it, like
Yeah.
one few words where it's like I think I showed you my set list from our
Hmm.
and like that's what just everyone does. And it's kind of funny in that aspect. Even like a guy who's doing comedy in fucking Des Moines, Iowa, is doing like it's still the same process for a guy who has Netflix specials.
Yeah, and a new Netflix show
Yeah,
now. Everyone's Live with John Mulaney. I've heard that's fantastic, so it's on our
yeah,
list. But yeah, just a insanely cool night of comedy. Had never heard of that venue before.
yeah. You have to
Didn't
check it
know
out.
didn't know that Patton Oswalt is here every month doing a
Yeah,
show like that. So it really opened up the door for a lot of cool stuff in the future. So that was fantastic. Honestly, I'm curious to debrief with you about Abby's first ever Disney experience.
yeah. She was very excited for it. And I think it helped. She was just tired. I think
Hmm.
it was a very long day.
Yeah,
And we were
and
there all the way.
Disney's no joke, by the way. Anybody who's been there with us can attest. If we're there, we're going all out.
Yep. Yeah. And so I think yeah, no, she loved it. She's not a huge fan of like being stuck with people, like in like, she's not claustrophobic, but like,
Hmm.
when there's like too many, when you can't move, she
Yeah,
does get, which does happen quite also. I think, as you said one time, you're like, oh, this is one of the busiest times we've ever been here. And I was
yeah.
like, well, that's not good.
It was. I don't know that I've seen it that busy since like well before COVID. And when I saw it that busy was literally over some sort of school break, I'm sure.
Which I
But
think this
just
is what,
shoulder to shoulder.
yeah, like what it was probably during spring break. Like that's why we were down here since Abby works for a university.
Hmm.
Um, no, it was really cool. Like even for me, I've never been to Disneyland, but the parks in Orlando.
Hmm.
Um, it's interesting just because it's so compact, which
Yeah.
is I think the only negative, which is a good and bad thing because you can get from place to place fairly easily. But
Hmm.
yeah, we got pretty much every ride she wanted to go on. So
Yeah. And then we actually specifically said we weren't going to stay for fireworks. One, because they weren't listed to happen that night. So we weren't going to stay that
yeah,
late. But two, because we definitely wanted to try to get out before that.
yeah,
And then we ended up, going to the cantina and staying for a couple of
yes,
drinks, which is cool. And we wanted to go on one last ride before we left. And before you know it, the fireworks are going off, and we're like, "Oh shit, we gotta go!" Like
yeah,
this is gonna be an hour to get out of here, and it almost was.
yep. That was. But no, we did the hits that she wanted to. I think Pirates held
My
up really
favorite.
well. For her Haunted Mansion, I think did as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, and then Jungle Cruise, I think was a little disappointment for her just because it is so short. I
Yeah,
think that was also. I think you said like you have to like almost put your kid glasses on for a lot of this.
absolutely. Yeah,
Um,
it's overall it is a theme park, but overall it is for children.
yeah,
So you do have to kind of realize that, and it goes back to what you and I were talking about a lot in the park, which was like, man, I remember this ride being this, and I
yeah,
remember when this looked like that, and it's like it's the same. We're just adults now.
yeah.
Also, for Jungle Cruise, I will attest they do speed it up a lot. Like
I think
we
they
skipped
did.
over a lot of the pun jokes because
Yeah,
I think when it's busy like that, you just simply cannot
to get the people
take
through.
5 minutes for a ride.
Yeah, she our like tour guide was very good. Tour guide, I guess tour guide
Yeah.
is, but very good. But she was like didn't stop talking because she was trying to get through as many puns as she could.
Yep.
Um, yeah, no. Abby Dole Whip was a big hit.
Yes.
I think
I'm
that
so
was.
happy you all got your Dole Whip.
Yep, I love Dole Whip.
So good.
It
That pizza
is.
place, by the way, that we went for
Yes,
lunch.
that was very good. I think that was a very highly recommend. If you're there, because the nice thing about Disneyland versus Disney World, the downtown Disney / whatever Disney Springs is I think what
Yeah,
it's called.
in
It
Florida.
Yeah. Again, going back to everything being very close to each other is not so you can leave the park and you're already automatically in downtown Disney. So I
Yep.
think that was very key of like being able to leave the park, grab lunch, take like a breather, and then go back in the park was really amazing.
The little people mover train is nice too. You go and
Yeah.
sit in that, it takes you around, you kind of get to rest your feet for a little
Mhm.
while, then by the time you stop you're in downtown Disney. So
Yeah.
yeah, really, really great Disney day overall. Was really crazy busy though, which I was a little disappointed in. But
Yeah, that we're definitely, if we're planning to come back, gonna try like either like late January, February, when I think it's, school's in session, but people are over the holidays kind of thing.
yep, and then we'll do Cali Adventure too.
Yeah.
That'll be a little bit different too. It's a little bit more.
Yeah.
That one you don't have to put your kid glasses on as much.
Yeah, that's low key though. I think the best hidden ride that ended up being one of my favorites, the Mr. Toad ride.
Dude, I'm so happy you think so because that is one of Abby and I's absolute favorites.
Well, it's essentially about a
A toad lawyer.
a toy. Yeah, he's more of a lawyer than I am. He's an esquire.
He actually is, yeah.
But him just drunk driving through the streets of old timey London and then getting caught, going to jail, but then running away from jail, dying in a car accident, and then going to hell.
Yes. And by the way, if you ever hate what happens on this podcast and you want to sue us, submit it to Mr. Toad Esquire.
Yep.
He is our official lawyer of this podcast.
He is. And even though he's in hell, apparently.
I love that ride, man. It's so underrated.
Yeah. Pinocchio ride, trash.
Don't do Pinocchio ride. Also, I wanted to get your true opinions of Peter Pan.
I think it's hard because it was the first ride we went on, and that I think after that ride, you're like, oh yeah, you need to put your kid glasses back on. Because as a kid, I remember I loved that ride, and it's still fun, but it's very short.
Yeah, and
not worth the wait.
And the worst part about it was, so it was our first ride of the day.
Yeah,
you get there, you're so amped, you're so pumped. You get in line. I think we got in line, and the wait time was like 25, 30 minutes. Yeah. And as we're about halfway through the line, they announced that the ride is broken down. Yeah. And I was like,
a lot of rides broke down though. That was another thing.
That was disappointing. But then you're sitting there and you're like, well, it's our first ride. These rides kind of go off and on all day. Let's just stay in line. It should be open in like a few minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, we ended up being in line for, what was it? Over an hour?
Yeah.
Almost an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And then you finally get on and you're like, okay, cool, we're here. And the ride ends in 45 seconds. Yeah. And you're like, oh, Jesus Christ. So, yeah, that was I think, honestly, I saw a shift from excitement to like, oh, okay, I see what it's going to be.
And then we went on Pirates, and I think it perked us back up. Another one that I was not expecting to have so much fun on was the, what I kept calling it the wrong name the entire time. The train roller coaster.
The train roller coaster.
Thunder Mountain.
Oh, yeah, Big Thunder Mountain.
Big Thunder Mountain. Yeah, mostly because of the Fast Pass was major key there.
Yep.
Me and Damien went on it.
That one was one of my favorites of the day, honestly. Yeah, I still think about that and laugh.
I was telling people about it. So, from the time we placed our Abbeys on a bench.
Yep. Actually, it was literally on the curb, by the way.
Curb, yes, by a trash can.
Yes.
Because there was nowhere else to sit. From the time we left, we went through the line, rode the ride, and got back to them within 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And I was like, ride, that made up for the Fast Pass.
And that ride is so silly, too, because you don't expect it to be as exhilarating as it is. Yes. Because it's not like a loop-de-loop or anything like that, but you really get some speed. And I was laughing so hard because Christian and I were sitting in the same little bench, and he doesn't wait. He was sitting on the the side where almost every turn on that roller coaster is to the
Yes.
right.
Yep.
And Christian was sitting on the right hand side, so on the internal side, and he's so light that he just kept sliding.
And I was wearing like slippery short material.
Yeah, like
And
running
so
shorts.
I was mostly in Damien's lap for the majority of that ride.
At one point, at the biggest, like the fastest right turn, all of a sudden he just ends up sitting on my right thigh. I was like, that is too fucking funny. So I loved that. That was one of my favorite parts of the day, actually. But yeah, so that was great. What else did we do while you guys were here? It was so hectic.
It was. I'm having mic difficulties as
Uh-oh.
always.
Top of the morning to all you fine folks out there. This is Mike from the Paddy Wagon Podcast. Be sure to join us every other Wednesday for a proper drink as we talk with a variety of interesting guests, ranging from the funny to the informative, the educational to the idiotic, and everything in between. You can find us at thepaddywagonpodcast.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows. For up-to-date information on our upcoming guests, be sure to give us a follow on Instagram at PaddyWagonPod. Until the next time, sláinte, my friends.
Yeah, but I hear you just fine.
Oh, okay. We'll just
Yeah.
do it through that then.
Fuck it. We'll do it live.
Doing it live!
Yeah. I mean, it's no different than anybody that we interview, to be honest with you.
That's
it sounds
true.
about the
People
same.
will just hear slightly different.
It just sounds a little tinny, but that's fine. So, all right. So, any last thoughts on Disney? Are you interested in going back at any point?
Yeah, I definitely want to go back. I do want to check out more of the Star Wars world. It was just so busy that was it the Rise of the Resistance is supposed to be the good ride?
I will tell you, as far as the Star Wars land goes, we really covered all of it. The difference is that you guys didn't get to do honestly, the number one ride in Disney is the Rise of the Resistance.
Yeah.
And funny enough, by the time we were actually going to go and do it, the line was like 90 minutes long.
Yeah. And
so it was like, I don't know, man.
And you couldn't use the Fast Pass.
Nope, it was an extra $30 to do that.
On top of the $30 you pay for the Fast Pass. And so, no, definitely want to go back. Definitely want to check out California Adventure since it's a little more adulty, I would say.
Yeah.
But no, had a great time there. I'm trying to think of things, what else we did.
Oh, I mean, obviously Alice in Wonderland.
Oh, Alice in Wonderland was that was the last ride. That was really fun.
That's the one that made us leave after the fireworks. Yeah. I was like, we can't leave. We really can't leave without doing the pretentious caterpillar. We have to do that one.
That one was very good. It was a great mixture of old and new, which I thought was really cool. Because some of the rides are outdated, I will say.
Peter Pan.
Mr. Toad is I loved it, but that and Pinocchio and then probably Snow White's probably very similar. Mm-hmm. We didn't get to go on that one, but you can tell they were made in the 60s because it's essentially just a car on a track with cardboard cutouts.
Yeah. I mean, they're all kind of that whole Disneyland for the most part. Mm-hmm. They're all kind of, it's a small world. It's just you sit in a thing and there's things around and then you get off. That's kind of the theory there. But that's why California Adventure is fun. You got the roller coasters. Mm-hmm. You got we also didn't get to do Space Mountain.
No, that was another one. I decided to do Matterhorn. Mm-hmm. Over Space Mountain, but you didn't want to do Matterhorn because you're like, that gives me whiplash. And I was like, it does.
It does, yeah.
But it's the only ride I have never been on because that is only at Disneyland and not at Disney World. So I was like, I got to try it.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, God, this is from the 60s.
Yeah, don't do it, dude.
And I'm not a tall man by any means, but I felt too tall for that ride.
Yeah, you're like, as soon as you got back to us, you were like, dude, my knees were in my shoulders the entire time.
Yeah, I was like, I'm eating my knee. And so, no. Me and Abby really enjoyed our time in LA. Of course, it always comes up the conversation of would we move here kind of thing. And I'm still no. Yeah. I love it. I love visiting. I love visiting you guys. I love all the friends that are now my friends that are your friends.
Yeah.
That I think you maybe see only when I'm in town. I think
Honestly, I think they like you more than me.
I think so. That's usually how it goes. But there's so much to do, which is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But to do anything, it takes forever. Like you
Yeah.
can't like for us to even go to the comedy show, which was on a Sunday night at 7, was still like what, an hour and a half drive.
I think we got there in about an hour 10, hour 15.
Yeah.
But the frustrating part about it is that location is only like 24 miles from my
Yeah.
house. Realistically, it shouldn't take you more than 30, 35 minutes. So that
Yeah.
is the frustrating, because we made it home from
Yeah.
the comedy place in 40 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's like it just doesn't compute, but there is so much to do. And Abby, you and your Abby did some stuff on your guys' zone too. Didn't you go
Yeah.
to the tar pits?
Yeah, I took Abby to Venice Beach because she had never been. Saw the skateboarders and like just it's Venice Beach. You just want to check it out.
Mm-hmm. You guys didn't
And
make it to the canals though, right?
no, I wish we would have. That would have been cool to see, but yeah, we didn't have time.
Yeah.
But we went to the La Brea Tar Pits, which are really cool because they're like just literally in the middle of LA, like
Yeah.
downtown LA, which is really cool. Um, would if you're not a museum person, or even for us, like I would say you can see the actual tar pits for free because it's
Yeah.
just they're in a park, and then the museum costs money. I wouldn't go to the museum, which says a lot
Yeah.
because a theme of this podcast is how much I love museums. It
Mm-hmm.
was not. I wanted to see the tar pits, and I did, and I realized those were free.
So that's enough. Like, going and seeing the actual tar pits is enough. You don't have to go, because I always heard, oh no, you have to go to the museum for it all to like
No,
coalesce and make sense.
you can read the museum's cool because they like have all the fossils of what they've like got out of the pits and
Mm.
like explains it. But like if you just want to see the pits, and then there's like placards outside the pits that kind of explain what happened. And you still like there's the iconic pit
Yeah.
that has like they recreate the mastodon getting stuck. Like when you see like cuts of LA and videos, or like what they show, you can see that for free, to be
Right.
honest.
Right.
So yeah, definitely. And also it's a thing like it's in, I guess, the museum district because there's the La Brea tar pits, and then next to it is the Modern Art Museum, and
Yep.
then the Academy Award Museum.
Yeah.
So I would say if you're going already down there to see the other two museums, just pop by and you could see them in like 10 minutes. But I've heard we wish we had more time. We would have done the Academy Award Museum because I've heard from several people it's amazing.
Now I would go to that one.
Yeah, maybe next time we come into town, we can.
That one would be fun. I'd be
Yeah,
100% down for that. That's more
yeah,
my speed of like, okay, but I'm really into movies and media
yeah,
and stuff like that. So that would be fun for me.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. So would recommend that. We did do the Warner Brothers Studio Tour, which is pretty
that's
cool as
right. I
well.
was gonna ask. It's like, I know you did one other like big event.
Yeah, just again, it's one of those like this was more of the we're going to do the touristy things while we're
Right.
here, and that definition, like you get in the little trams, and then you see all the old studios.
Was I right in my when I gave you like information about that? Because I told you like, well, now they've divided it into like tiers
Yeah,
and things like that. So was I on the money with that one?
yeah. So like it was good for us because like we did the classic Hollywood one because Abby really likes old and inspired Turner classic movies, so that was really good. And it kind of skipped over the stuff we didn't necessarily like. Gilmore Girls is a huge part of that now, from what
Yep.
I'm told. And like,
Which we love, but
yeah, me and Abby have never watched it.
yeah,
We've Abby's been told that it's eventually on our list kind of thing, but like we kind of picked the right one because like they skipped over the Gilmore Girls stuff, and
yeah,
so which we were okay. And then
they overhyped the Harry Potter stuff by a million.
Yeah, yeah, it's cool. They have some cool stuff in there.
Yeah,
But I
but
mean, going to Universal's cooler.
yeah, and well, also like we've both. Well, Abby still uh, doesn't let this go. Of we were in London, but we didn't do the Harry Potter in London or
Hmm.
outside of London because again we didn't have time.
Yeah,
But if you compare that to Warner Brothers, you're like, there's nothing.
it's
They're
not even
not even the same ballpark. And
no,
so
not even kind of comparable, but also
yeah,
space wise, there's just no way that they could,
no, no,
compare. But yeah, that's a good one. I really like that Warner Brothers tour. It has once again, just like everything, just like Disney,
yeah,
it has become a situation where it's like you're pricing out the people who actually want to be here.
yeah, yeah,
You turn it into a tier system, and by paying less, you get less access to the same tour that everybody else gets. It's just like
yeah.
it's just disappointing, man. But it's still really fun.
Yeah, yeah. Again, yeah, I was doing the touristy things, and so there's still so much of LA I want to see.
Hmm.
We haven't done Orange County. I haven't been to Orange County at all,
Yeah.
like the
Oh, we
Huntington
also
Beach
took you
area.
guys to Haven City.
Haven City was really cool.
I loved that experience because I knew that the experience y'all would have within the first like 15 minutes was the exact one that I had, which is you walk in and go, "This is too overwhelming."
Yeah, I think I would would have been okay. I'm better at deciding food, and Abby's like everyone else's wife, where they can't make a decision on what to eat, and so
Hmm.
like I would have been better. Like I would have definitely sampled more places.
Yeah,
So essentially, Haven City is like I feel bad calling it a giant food court, but
it kind of is.
it kind of is, but of like all local businesses.
And it's got a cocktail lounge. It's got Ogopogo Brewing.
Hmm.
Um, it's got another place that you can grab drinks. So, and then they have live events that take place
Yeah.
outside. They have live bands that perform inside. It's attached to this giant Asian supermarket that you can go
Hmm.
to, and it's all just one big like factory setup. So,
Yeah.
um, my Abby and I love going there and just being like, all right, I'm going to get this, you get that. We'll meet
Yeah.
here and we'll order this for dessert, and then
Hmm.
we're going to grab drinks, and you get to just taste a little bit of everything. But it
Yeah.
is very overwhelming if you're somebody who's like, how do you make a decision with all of these in front of you?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was very good. Like, foods we are kind of hard to find back in Nebraska. Like, we don't have Filipino food.
Yeah,
Like,
I was so
yes,
disappointed.
I was too.
Oh,
That
I
that
really.
that was the place I wanted to try
I
very
know.
badly.
Yeah, shout out to that old Filipino place. We've had it once and it was fantastic.
Yeah, because
It's now closed, I guess.
we love Hawaiian food and
Hmm.
and like other, Asian foods. We just haven't really had Filipino food because
Yeah,
that is the one Asian country that's not really in Nebraska.
yeah, yeah. I didn't
Uh,
even really know what Filipino food was until I moved here, and
yeah,
now it's one of my top favorites, other than Thai food. Oh my
mm,
god,
we do
we
have some
gotta
good.
we gotta
Yeah,
get you some Thai food out here next time
yeah,
you're out too.
yes, no, because we have some what I think is good Thai food here, but I would definitely want to try Thai food in LA because
Yeah,
just the amount
Jeffrey
of
has
things.
showed us two
Yes,
fantastic places, so yeah, we'll do that next time. But other than
no,
that, I mean, it was a great. I had a lot
we
of fun. We unfortunately didn't get it any real like podcast stuff accomplished, but you know what? It was
we
so
were
busy.
we were like a good medium between busy and not like because you
Hmm.
still had to work. I think 2 of the days while I was
Hmm.
there. Um, And we were, it felt like we were there for a bit, but not really.
No,
Like,
it was a pretty quick turnaround, especially for coming to LA. Like when you go to when you go home to Nebraska, you're like it can be a quick turnaround. I know
yeah,
where everything's at. I can get in and out of places. It's not that bad. I got to make time for people and do stuff like that. But when you come to LA, it's like I don't really know anybody here. We're kind of just chilling and vibing. So it both goes quickly and doesn't go quickly. Whereas in
mhm.
Omaha, it only goes quickly.
Yeah. It's no, we definitely love LA. We definitely want to come back more often, but yeah, not moving there.
Yeah,
It's just
I'll get you.
it.
I'll get you.
It's just, yeah, I don't want to complain about the traffic, but I think that is the big, just because you just waste so much time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like, I think you said, like, you're like, you have to leave downtown LA by 3 to get back to your place. And I was like, or you're going to be in traffic for 2 hours.
Yeah. But the good part about it is, like, realistically, in living here now and having a life here, you
Yeah.
can accomplish anything that you can accomplish in downtown in the city that you're in. It's not like the best of the best. So if you want comedy, you go right down the street to downtown Covina. You got
Yeah.
the Laugh Factory. You can get your comedy. You want some really, really great food, you head over to any corner of the suburbs here and you're going to have some good stuff. Now, you do still have to drive, but instead of going for an hour and a half to downtown LA, you can just go 20 minutes to downtown Covina or Glendora or
You're just
whatever.
explaining Omaha with better weather.
Yeah, see, I sold you. I sold you right there. I see. I know how to make recommendations.
You're just explaining Omaha with higher prices of everything.
Higher prices and better, like, big things. You know, big bands come to LA, not necessarily. Although I don't know if you saw this, but did you see Sleep Token's tour?
Yeah.
So it's already sold out. And I was talking to Keegan. I was like, as soon as I saw that it was dropping, I was like, dude, we got to get tickets. And he was like, yeah, but they're not coming to Phoenix. One of the biggest places to go to concerts is Phoenix.
Yeah.
They're not going there, but they are going to Lincoln, Nebraska. That's
Sounds like
funny.
you're coming. It sounds like you're coming here for a concert.
I wish I couldn't get tickets. It sold out in like 2 days.
Oh, even here in Lincoln?
The whole tour is sold out.
Jeez. I wonder where they're playing in Lincoln at. Probably the Bourbon.
I was hoping they would play at the stadium. That would be fucking cool.
We do, like, Lincoln does surprisingly get some big stuff here and there.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, do you want to go to it or not? Like, surprisingly, like, Nate Bargatze's coming to Lincoln and doing the arena, which
Yep.
holds like 15,000. So,
Yeah.
like, Lincoln does get some cool stuff. It's just very hit or miss.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, I don't know, man. I'll get you. Every time you come here, you like it more and more. So a couple more times, and I'll convince you.
See, but I
But-
can just come visit.
That's true.
I go down to downtown LA as much as you do.
Yeah, that's honestly true. We only go out there when people visit, so that's a good point. But now that we discovered Patton Oswalt and friends, we may be going down there more often.
Yeah. Also, that same weekend, Sarah Silverman had a similar thing. Sarah Silverman and friends, and so that was a hard one to decide. But
Well, I think we made the right choice.
yeah,
All right. Well, I'm glad you made it home safe. Apologies again that we're not going to have any live
Yeah.
stuff, but suck my dick about it. I don't give a shit. So, bye.
Bye.